Today, for the Friday show, we're going to talk about something really, really important. I'm going to bring to light something that has happened not only to us, but our clients as well. It's happened to our 4E kennel dogs, whether in or out of our care. And I really need to share that at this point because it could potentially save your dog's life. How a flat buckle collar can kill your dog. Before we get to that though, I want to talk in general about collars. I want to talk about options. I want to talk about, this could be a little bit, some people get a little heated about this, some of these collars. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the person behind the collar. And here's where I stand. A hammer is a very, very useful tool. It can build houses. It can fix things. It can open a paint can depending how it's used. It can put nails in and take nails out. What a beautiful tool, right? But in the wrong hands, a hammer could kill somebody. You need to think about this. It's the same thing with any kind of tool you use with your dog. A leash could be used to kill your dog, just like a prong collar could. So it's the hands and the heart behind the tool. So when we go through talking about all these today, none of them are bad unless the person behind them is bad, unless they don't know how to use it, or they're using it with ill intention, a mean heart. They're using it to punish. Okay, so let's go through all your options for collar types, and then we're going to get to how flat buckle collars can kill when a human's not even involved. And that's what's really, really important today. But let's go through these because I think it's really important to talk about. Here are your options. Here's the pros and the cons to this. This is why you may or may not need this kind of tool, this kind of collar when working with your dog. I'm going to give you my opinion, my experience. You may have another one and that's okay. Don't email me. Don't comment. Don't tell me to email you so you can give me your opinion. My show, my podcast, here's my experience. All right, first one. Let's just start with the bark collar. Bark collar can be used to stop a dog from barking. It does vibrate on their neck. It does have to be placed fairly tight on their neck because then when their vocal cords vibrate, then the collar will vibrate back. Some people say it shocks. You could say it vibrates. It has to give some kind of sensation that stops the dog from participating in barking. Some people think it's cruel. For some people, it saved their dog's life. It saved them from having to rehome their dog because there are nuisance barking dogs. There are HOAs. There are neighbors that don't want to deal with your dog's barking. So if you're not able to manage the barking, especially if you're not home, you can put a bark collar on them. And it will remind them when they go to bark, not to bark. There are collars like the one I showed you that you can start at a very, very low little bump. And then if they keep barking, the collar will automatically be like, oh, you've tried to bark within 3 seconds. So it will up the intensity of the vibration. You have to go above the threshold of the dog. So if it's not uncomfortable enough, they're not going to stop. And that's like anything in life. It's even raising kids. If the consequence isn't uncomfortable enough, they're going to keep doing whatever it is they're doing. So bark collars are highly effective when used correctly. The cons can be if you keep the bark collar on your dog all the time, they can get sores in their neck. There are prongs that do have to be tight against their neck. So if it's something that they do have to wear every day for a short amount of time because they can't be barking when you're gone, or you work at home now and they're constantly barking and you've not been able to train it out of them, I'm just being honest. Like there's a lot of over barky dogs. And so if they have to wear the bark collar for a while, what you can do is like do it more on the right or the middle or the left of the neck. You can kind of move the prongs each day just so you alleviate any chance of any kind of irritation on the neck. So there's all different types of bark collars. There's some that like spray a citronella spray on their face too. You do have to train your dog to a bark collar. You need to be prepared that the first time you put it on them, when they bark, they're going to get corrected. That could startle them. They could be like, whoop, and make another sound. Well, guess what happens when they make another sound? Whether it's a cry, it's a bark, it's a startle response, it's going to bump them again. And this could escalate that you have this very uncomfortable time where they've got to figure it out. Crap, it's when I make a sound this happens. This is one time. It is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to watch. It's uncomfortable to see. But again, if this is for the lifetime of the dog, sometimes you just have to get through something that's uncomfortable so that you can have a happier dog. And look, at the end of the day, a dog that's barking all the time is not a happy dog either. So do your dog a favor too. If you've not been able to train it, this tool might be useful for you. Again, you don't have to do it. I'm just talking about options in collars. Okay, here's what's called a martingale. It looks like this. It's like a flat buckle collar, except it does have two loops with the chain in the middle. So when you connect the leash to it, and if the dog does pull on the leash, it will tighten right here. So it's just a fairly gentle reminder to the dog, hey, step in line. You're losing your puppy brain. You're pulling, right? So it just gives them that it tightens around their neck. And gives them that reminder. It can be highly beneficial when training a puppy or a dog that does tend to pull or get overexcited or aggressive. It can be an easy way to give a little bump on the leash so that it does tighten a little bit and it does remind them, hey, knock it off. You have to have something to interrupt the thought before it becomes excitement or aggression, and so the martingale can be used to do that. Can it be used ineffectively to hurt a dog? Absolutely. Like we talked about, so can a hammer. So can a bark collar. If you leave it on your dog all the time, you leave those prongs tight on the neck in the same spot, absolutely can cause damage. A martingale can cause damage as well. But again, if used correctly, it can be a beautiful tool, a way that you can communicate with your dog. The martingale is really kind of the new version. Honestly, I don't see these as much, but a choke chain, and it's exactly what it's called. People kind of panic. They're like, a choke chain. Well, yeah, it's kind of what it's called. It's the same idea. When the dog pulls on the leash or you have to give them a little correction, it will tighten on their neck, and it's a reminder to step back in line again. Please don't forget that a mom dog corrects a puppy on the neck with her teeth. So in many ways, the whole collar idea is communicating with the dog in a way that they understand. So that pressure on the neck, that quick correction, is highly effective. What's not effective is to keep the leash tight the whole time and let the dog choke and choke and choke. That's not training. That is inhumane, honestly. Like, be real about it. If your dog is pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling on the leash the whole entire walk, that's not okay. Let's train the dog first. These tools are great to use as that reminder, a quick bump and release. The correction is a quick bump and release with the leash. It's not constant pressure. That's not uncomfortable enough. That's why they keep pulling, you guys. So dogs learn by the release of pressure. I get the quick correction. It's a little uncomfortable. And then my owner relaxes. Their arm relaxes. The leash is relaxed. My collar is relaxed. That is the reward. So if you've trained or your dog has trained you to have constant pressure on their leash when you're out walking because they're pulling, that's a human issue. That's lack of training. So that's a whole different issue than any kind of collar concern. Okay, this one gets people all roused up. I'll be honest, this is my favorite. It is called a prong collar. It looks scary, but to me, what did I just say? A mom dog corrects a puppy with their teeth on their neck. Could I speak to my puppy more clearly, more effectively, more humanely than with a prong collar that's replicating a little tooth correction on their neck? Again, it cannot be constant pressure. You have to know how to use these tools. A quick bump correction where you pull the leash and release, give it a snap correction basically, reminds them very, very effectively, oh, step back in line, or don't lunge, or don't bark, or don't try to chase. Keeping them in a neutral state of mind. Here's the deal. Oh, I just had one. Matthew, can you come here real quick? Matthew? I have a kid. I have a prong collar sitting in here. Put one around your wrist and snap it on your wrist. Go into the pet store and do that. Put one on your wrist and pull on it. Do like you're going to do with the same intensity that you would give a snap correction, and you're going to feel it's not sharp in the way it looks. It definitely will be like, oh, I feel a little boop, boop. No different than your nails. Doing this, like knock it off. No different than a mom dog, knock it off. Like giving that correction on their neck. So please, prong collar. Will you please grab me the prong collar up there? I just put it on your desk. No, it's over on your stuff. Sorry, we're grabbing one. Jeanette's grabbing it for me. Thank you. Huh? So here you go. So you're going to put it on your wrist. I'm showing the prong collar on my wrist. Do the correction. I'm doing a pretty good right there. Look at my wrist. Nothing. Look. And that was a good correction. So it does use the pressure equally around the collar, around the neck. So it's not just like a one spot. It's a very even correction. All of it hitting at the same time with the same pressure. So again, if this freaks you out and you're like, then don't use it. I don't care. But I'm telling you now, with the experience we have and all the dogs we've trained, if done humanely and correctly, it is a beautiful way to communicate with your dog that they absolutely understand. It really eliminates a lot of nonsense in the miscommunication between a dog and a human, without a doubt. Okay, here's one that other owners and trainers like to use called the gentle lead. It goes around their nose, essentially, their muzzle. And so you're leading them by the muzzle. They can't pull you while they're wearing it because it will just move their head. So again, this could be very, very effective. A lot of people feel a lot more comfortable with this one. I will say, again, there's pros and cons to every collar. Be very careful. It can cause neck injury if you're yanking it or your dog does something silly and yanks, because it will pull the neck to the left or the right, and we don't want any neck injury. So that's the thing you have to be aware of when using a gentle lead. Again, it has helped a lot of dogs that pull, and if that you have to decide what you feel the most comfortable with, and you have to know going into whatever collar you use, you need to know how to use it. So educate yourself how to use it, and then not only you know how to use it, but you have to teach your dog how to use it. You can't put a prong collar on a dog and start yanking them around and giving them corrections. That is cruel and inhumane. You need to put the collar on the dog and teach them and show them and guide them how to get used to a prong collar. For a prong collar specifically, we put them on the prong collar and then I don't move. They're on a leash and I don't move. So when the dog moves away from me, guess what happens? There'll be a little correction. I just stand there and I call the dog back. I give him a treat. I am laying that foundation. Come next to me. That's the release of pressure. This is where all the praise is. This is where the reward is. I will protect you. I will never put you in a situation where you feel unsafe, right? So we're laying that foundation. I just stand there. And then they're like, oh, okay, you gave me a treat. I'm going to go sniff something else. And they reach the end of the leash. And what happens? They get the little correction. They feel the tug. Where do they come back to? Right when they feel the tug, I call them back to me and give them a reward. We just practice this. Then I start walking, right? The collar does it for itself. Now later, if the intensity of the dog, or if it's a more assertive dog, or if you're dealing with the behavior issue like lunging, barking, growling, then you would just simply give that bump on the leash, quick release, bump and release. Remember, so release of pressure is where they learn. You should not ever be walking your dog where the leash is completely pulled tight the whole entire time and pressure is on your dog's neck or on the gentle lead at all. What is happening is we're having these dogs pull and pull and pull and pull. So what do? We go out and buy them a harness. We buy them a harness so it's more comfortable for them to pull, because you're like, well, they're choking and they're coughing. So then you go out and buy them a harness, which actually makes it more comfortable for them to pull. A lot of people love harnesses, and if your dog walks beautifully and heels beautifully on a harness, I don't care again what you use. But again, it can be a way that you can't communicate correctly with the dog. You're really making it. I mean, harnesses came from, the Huskies pulling sleds. We had to have these nice padded, beautifully built harnesses to make it safe for Huskies and dogs of that kind to pull. So I kind of had to chuckle. I'll be honest. When I see people walking their dog with a harness and the dog is just pulling, and then people complain like, my dog just pulls me. I'm like, well, yeah, first of all, you let them. Number two, you're making it very comfortable for them to pull. Just an option. Clearly not my favorite at all. But again, if it works for you, that's all that matters. Let's talk about a remote collar. This is fantastic when using, here's just one type, the educator. Remote collar is the dog wears a collar that has also those that you can see in the picture. If you're watching this on video and not on the podcast, you can see in the picture that it does have those prongs that do need to be tight against the neck. You're going to be communicating with the dog again with the buzz or a bump. This is highly effective to use for hunting dogs when you have to communicate with a dog that's way far away. You have to tell, go right, go left, the bird fell, or herding dogs, you're going the wrong way, move them all the other way. Handlers have this beautiful language of these tiny little bumps that, like if you do 2 in a row or 3 quick in a row, the dog knows exactly what that means. Go right, go left, push the herd this way, look for the bird that way, whatever. So the remote collar, initially, I really believe the history is with working dogs that work away from the handler so you can communicate with them. We've also found it does a beautiful job helping dogs clearly off-leash pets. Again, you have to teach your dog how to use it. Another way to use this collar, and I think this is where it kind of gets a bad rap, but it shouldn't, as long as, like we talked about, the person is educated, the educator, don't you like the name of that one, and understands how to use it. So I'm just going to briefly tell you, if we're doing aversion training, this means that all the corrections you've tried to do don't matter. So for example, your dog keeps counter surfing, and then you don't catch it and they get rewarded because they got the loaf of bread, right? And then you catch them the next 3 times and scold them, but then you don't catch them again and they got rewarded. Well, of course, your scolding and clapping or whatever is not that big of a consequence when a turkey or a loaf of bread or cookies are on the counter, right? That reward is far greater than the consequence you've been giving. So you have to look at it from a dog's point of view, like, that hot dog's worth it, like whatever. So these collars can be used for aversion training, eating rocks, eating their poop, eating socks, counter surfing. You would put this on and you have to be in the training mind of leave food out. And then what I feel like is very humane is you tell the dog no, and then you give them a bump. Because the ultimate goal is, at any time you say no, it means stop that behavior. Stop that forward movement, whether you're going to grab the sock, grab the rock, grab and eat poop, counter surf, chase the bike, chase the cat. You have to say no and then give them the bump. And it lets them know, whoop, it just interrupts that thought. For many dogs, these collars have literally saved their lives. They would have been euthanized otherwise. They have bite history, resource guarding history, fighting with other dogs, killed another dog, and these collars alone have kept them alive because they were able to do aversion training and they were able to increase the intensity of the bump that you have to go over the intensity of the threshold of the dog. So if they're in a fight mode, like you have to go really high above that. But any trainer knows, and I'm telling you now, you have to interrupt the thought. So the best way to do that is to catch them right before they do it. No dog does something without warning, right? Right before they chase the cat, you'll see them go whoop, they'll freeze, they'll stare, and then they run. You have to give the bump, the correction, the verbal correction, the clapping, whatever, during that thought. That's the best way to correct a dog, okay? You can't do you can with the remote collar, and that's why it saved dogs' lives, but you have to go really high. You have to go above the threshold, above their prey drive, above their play drive, above their food drive. You have to go above that. So The goal is, of course, is that we start to really work toward interrupting the thought before it even gets to the behavior, right? Then you're not having to increase the intensity so much. You're not having to bump so much. And the goal is, for me, I feel like, unless you're using it on a working dog in that capacity, if you're having to do aversion training, is that we don't have to use it long term. It just becomes status quo that when I say no, I mean it. And without a doubt, there will be a negative consequence, and it will be uncomfortable enough that you're not going to want to do it again. We do this to ourselves. We have consequences for our children, but I don't know why we're so afraid to do the same thing for our dogs. And this is what truly creates neutral, natural, balanced dogs. And so this idea of, like I said, of not correcting dogs is been really unfair to our dogs. Dogs want to know fair consequences. They want you to be a fair leader. They want to know what the rules are. As you know, if you've listened to me, and if you haven't listened to this podcast or video, meeting your dog's needs in order, you need to go do that now, because we've got it wrong. And unfortunately, we're ruining our dogs. We're ruining their mental state. And here we are asking them to help us with our mental state, and we're not providing what they need. Their number one innate need, minus food and shelter, is rules, boundaries, and limitations. But so many humans are afraid to do that. And that's doing a huge disservice to our dogs. The second need is mental and physical stimulation. The third is love and affection. So having rules and boundaries, having an understanding of what's allowed and what's not allowed, truly creates for a happy dog and a happy balance between the two of you. Okay, we got the harness, we got the prong, just a few other things. Tags. Now we're going to start talking about things that are dangerous. Okay, so we're going to kind of switch now, talking about within using these tools. I gave you pros and cons as we went. One thing is the tags that hang. You get their little rabies tag, you get their little name tag that you slip around their collar. One, those can get lost. I've heard it so many times. The dog got out, they found the tags on the ground. If your dogs are playing, it could knock tags off of the collar. So none of our dogs actually have tags on them. And I know there's really cute ones and ones with little fake diamonds and shapes. And I know. It's a fashion statement, but it's not safe, for one thing, and it's not reliable. The other thing is, if you have a vent on your floor, like a heating vent, mobile homes have them, many other homes have them, older homes have them. Your heat's coming from the ground, it's got the vent. If your dog lays on that vent, the tag could get stuck. When a dog is restrained, or a cat, they're going to start to spin. They panic and they spin, and what they do is suffocate themselves. I unfortunately had that happen to a cat I loved, I traveled with. She went in the RV with me. I had the cutest little tag on her because I'm like, we're traveling. If something happened and she got out, I stepped outside, we were barbecuing, and I came back in and she was gone. It happened incredibly quickly. Her tag got stuck in the vent and she spun herself and strangled herself, and it was too late. I was out there for minutes. And it's incredibly, Karen said tags can get stuck in kennels too. So please understand, it's up to you, but I am telling you from firsthand experience and from clients and from other dog owners, tags can be dangerous and not always safe. An option for that is embroidered collars. You can get their name or just your phone number embroidered right on the collar. So as long as they have their collar on, there's nothing to fall off. There's nothing to get stuck in anything. They're safe. Okay, so you can do embroidered. You can get them on Amazon, Etsy. Just type in embroidered collars. And there are, I know this picture I'm showing you is just plain colors. There's really, really pretty ones too. So if you want to make a statement, you can definitely find something prettier. Okay, let's talk about flat buckle collars and how these can kill your dog. Just a good old flat buckle collar. Oh, what happened to me? Let me see here. Okay, so I'm showing one now. It's just a normal collar. It's what probably 90% of dogs wear. This is what we all have on our dogs, are these flat buckle collars. It's just a normal collar, right? Here's what happens, and here's how they can kill your dog. And this is without any human intervention. You have two dogs playing. They mouth at their neck. One dog gets their jaw, their teeth stuck in the collar. The other dog tries to pull away. When a dog feels restrained or trapped, they spin. They will literally and have strangled themselves while still hooked to the other dog's mouth. You will be lucky if the other dog doesn't break their jaw as well. If a dog breaks their jaw, it's just like a horse breaking their leg. They will have to be put down. You could lose both of your dogs within minutes because they're outside or inside playing. This has happened to two of my clients. They had two 4E kennel dogs. They lost one of them. They put their dogs outside to play. They went up and took a shower. They came back to one dog standing there with the collar stuck in the neck of the other one that was dead. It was too late. It's traumatic. It's horrific. It happens very, very quickly. We've had also dogs get stuck on fencing and they spin, you guys, and they strangle themselves within minutes. If you let your dog run and you've got trees and branches, we've had one of our retired moms get stuck during a storm on a branch, and thank God she didn't spin and was found in time, but these collars are deadly. Recently, we had one of our Healing Heart puppies. We've had this happen twice now, actually. I'm going to show you a picture. Thank goodness the family was home. The puppy raising family was home. They heard the dogs panic because they're really, really confused. They think the one's attacking the other. They're stuck together. They panic. And they heard the panic and they're like, what the heck is going on? And they run out there. And at first you think your dog is attacking the other dog. I mean, that's the way it looks. And then you quickly realize that the collar is stuck on one of their teeth or, several teeth. And they were able to free the puppy in training, one of our Healing Heart puppies. I'm going to show you a picture. If you're squeamish, don't look. But within seconds, they were right in their kitchen. The dogs are right outside. As soon as the dog started making noise, as soon as the panic set in, the one started spinning. It was seconds. And look at the damage. Look at the blood in his eye from just seconds. Again, if you're squeamish, don't look. But this is within seconds. He will be fine. The eye is fine. But I need to tell everybody this is incredibly serious. Jen, our Healing Hearts coordinator, just commented. She posted the link above from Etsy. We have found collars that will break away if this happens. So now we're okay because we can have identification on our dogs. And if something happened and they got stuck to something, this collar will break away. And you can put a leash on your dog and still walk your dog without the collar breaking away. And this is how. Look at this. This is brilliant. I'm just so excited we found these dog breakaway collars. I can't find them on Amazon yet. We found them on Etsy. Those of you, again, that are watching the video, here is a picture. So you have your normal flat buckle collar, basically, right? It's got the buckle. You can adjust the collar just the same. And then it has just like a cat breakaway collar. It has that piece in the collar. And on each side of the breakaway, it has the safety metal links. So when you want to walk your dog, you're going to hook the leash through both of those metal links that are on each side of the breakaway. So the collar can't actually break away when you have your dog on the leash. This is by far the safest collar your dog can wear. And we found also on Etsy, the link is in the comments on our Facebook channel. They also will, you can't see it on here, they will engrave the flat buckle part. It's metal. You can get it in metal, and they will engrave your phone number. They'll engrave the dog's name and the phone number. So you get it engraved and you get a breakaway. The safest collar you can possibly put on your dog. You don't have to worry about tags getting stuck anywhere, and you don't have to worry about them getting stuck in another dog's mouth or in a fence or in a tree or anywhere and spinning themselves and strangling. So here's the picture too of how you hook a leash. You just hook both of the sides, the D links, the rings on each side of the breakaway. So when you're walking them, no worries about the collar breaking away. But during the day, if they're playing with other dogs, they go to a dog park, that you have more than one dog, you have dogs that roughhouse and play, and they're, they use their paws, they're rolling around, they're biting each other on the ears and the muzzle and the neck, and they're doing all normal dog play. This will prevent if their tooth or teeth get stuck in the collar. So that is how collars can kill, whether you have a human hand behind it or they're just wearing their collar. I had to bring that to your attention. We have had dogs die now. We've had a very, very close call. We had a close call at 4E Kennels. One of our dogs, like I said, got stuck in a piece of the fence. Again, we were here. We caught it on time, but it's absolutely terrifying. Right now, our puppies that play together, we've got, we're raising future potential moms, don't even wear collars. I'm like, oh no, they do not wear collars. Our puppies, when we put their little collar on them at 4 weeks old, you'll notice they're actually breakaway collars. So when we've been doing that from the beginning. So when they're playing as a litter, if they get stuck, the collar gets stuck in their mouth, it just pops right off. It's just an easy breakaway collar like cats have had for a long time. All right, there you have it. Collars for Dummies 101. That's what I'm going to call it. I gave you the rundown. I gave you my opinion, my experience on collars. I cannot stress it enough. If you have more than one dog and they do roughhouse and play, even if they don't roughhouse and play, I'm telling you we've had dogs that were by themselves that got stuck on something. As soon as that collar gets stuck, they panic and they spin. And it takes minutes and they're gone. And it's so traumatic, and it's such a tragic way to lose a dog that doesn't need to happen. So go for their Christmas gift, go on Etsy. The link is on our Facebook comments. Go find or just go search dog breakaway collar, and you can find the engraved one as well. And then you're covered. Safety for identification and safety for them as well. All right, I'm Jeanette with 4E Kennels. We're not only healing hearts and changing lives through the power of a dog, but we are changing breeding from bad to badass, and we are taking thousands of breeders with us. I am teaching them my curriculum, my handling exercises, our puppy evaluations. We're raising the standard together. Our dogs deserve more. Stop buying puppies from pet stores, from online brokers, from Craigslist, from anybody that doesn't have a business, that isn't doing this professionally. And the first question you should ask is, if for some reason I cannot keep this dog, can I return it? And if it is a no, please walk away. This is why our shelters are filled with homeless dogs. This is why so many dogs are being euthanized. It's not because of responsible breeding. It's because of irresponsible buying and ownership. Have a great weekend.